Good afternoon, fellow vagabonds, and people who haven't seen this channel yet, or are getting into it. I'm not sure. Um, we started the Lenten season on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. I got my ashes for the first time. It was a rewarding experience. It was something that I had never done before, and well, to say the least, going through and just it's giving things up and trying to do what Jesus did. Uh, it's not easy, but it is worth it. Um, so I'm gonna try and get back into the habit of doing these daily readings, um, because, like everybody, we all struggle with vices. Some of them are outwardly, where we have problems with, controlling our appetites for, fleshly desires. Some people drink too much, and by that I mean alcohol. Some people may drink too much soda, and that's unhealthy for you, and it's not good. Some people eat too much, and we all know what that does. And the list goes on and on. There are people who are kleptomaniacs and just can't stop stealing. There are people that just can't stop lying. Um, these are these are these are rotten fruits, and kind of expose that inherent rebellious nature in all of us, where we do what we want to do. And the hardest thing about Lent is people give up things they want to do. They put aside their rebellious nature for 40 days to try and grow closer to the Lord and clean up that interior life. Now, it's reminiscent of the temptation of Jesus, where he went to the desert and he was tempted 3 times by the devil. Shoot, I should have came prepared with what that was about. Well, not what it was about, but what. Man, this is rough. But like I said, I do these all raw. I don't have a script, and so sometimes I come in here and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. But essentially, Jesus went into the desert and he was tempted with power, food, starving, going through the cardinal sin, or not cardinal sins, but going through just the temptations of the devil. And obviously he overcame it. If you want to reference that, look at Matthew. I think it's Matthew 9. And there's 3 versions, or not 3 versions, but 3 tellings of the story: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And they're in the first part of the Gospels. So you can reference those if you need. My cat. Of course my cat decides that he wants to scrape the litter box right when I'm trying to do a recording or do a video. But, so for today, I'm going to do like I did the last time I did this, and I'm going to try and make it more consistent so we all are on the same page. My consistency kind of shows where I'm at with my walk with God, because I'm trying to do this every day. So I do this every day, and then hopefully people who are also seeking that kind of spiritual guidance can join me as we all try to follow Jesus, because we all know what our destination is. I mean, there's a movie called Final Destination, and it's not just just a gory end, but we all hope that when that day comes, we go to heaven, and that's what we all hope for. And that's kind of the big thing about hope. So anyways, so let's get started. The first reading will come from Isaiah 58, 1 through 9. and I'll read it out loud. And you can follow along in your Bibles, Isaiah 58, 1 through 9. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness, and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments, they delight to draw near to God. Why have we fasted, and you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you take no knowledge of it? Behold, in the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure, and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel, and to fight, and to hit with wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose, a day for a man to humble himself? Is it to bow down his head like a rush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast, and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I chose, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house, when you see the naked to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you, the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, Here I am. All right, and then the next one we're going to do is Matthew 9, 14 through 15. Then the disciples of John... All right. Let me not just jump right into that. All right, so again, Matthew 9, 14 through 15. Glory to you, O Lord. Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast? And Jesus said to them, Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The day will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. All right, 1 second. Come on, buddy. I'll get on the couch. I know. All right. So kind of like what I was talking about before we walked into this, the whole idea of Lent and what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and it's a lot more than just shallow, I'm giving this up, I'm gonna do this, I'm not gonna do this. You know, I think a lot of us do get caught in that bubble. The Lenten season is not meant to be like a self-help guru, 40 days change your life and you'll be a better person. That's not what it's about. Because again, none of us are perfect. We're not going to be perfect. We can never attain the righteousness that Jesus was and is. It's just not possible. And it's not without a lack of trying. There's a lot of people out there that really are trying to be holy, and on the outside it looks like they're doing great, and even their interior might be spot on. I mean, we can't know for sure. You can't know what anyone's life is really like. You know, we always see highlight reels of everything. And I think I spoke about that a while ago, about how what did I say? We were talking about highlight reels, and you know, you can't really compare yourself to someone's highlight reel. And that seems to be what we... Oh, I remember. I was talking about conversion stories, and one of the essays I wrote on my Substack, well, the one and only one right there, right now. Um, this is a process. I used to write a lot more, and now I'm kind of getting right back into it. But that's neither here nor there. Uh, Conversion's hard, and it's because the way you lived before is not going to. It's not going to look the same when you change, when you convert, when you walk over and say, "I'm going to be a follower of Christ, a Christian." It's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to be the same person. There is going to be genuine changes that will shock the people around you. It might shock them. It might enrage them. It might bring them sorrow. I know back in the day, Catholics weren't really considered, Christians. Like, a lot of people just didn't like it, and a lot of it comes down to the practices. Some people thought that it's idolatrous, all these statues and the difference between venerating and worship and things of that nature. So when we enter into the Lenten season, we really need to remind ourselves that, we're not perfect, but Jesus loves us anyways. And here in the verse we got in Isaiah 58, there's a contrast between true fasting and, essentially acting. You're playing the part. For example, if I went and got my ashes and was feeling, I walked in and I noticed that nobody else had their ashes, I could be arrogant about it. I could look at it and be like, oh, these guys, look at them, not getting their ashes, not caring about the Lord. Lord, what are we doing here? These people are bad, send them to hell. Well, that's a horrible mindset. That's a horrible mindset to be in, because that's not what the Lord wants. Vengeance is His. Judgment is His. We are in no place to judge. That goes back to, one of those parables that Jesus was talking about, where He says, before you notice the speck in someone else's eye, pull the plank out of yours. And also, the woman caught in adultery, he who is without sin may cast the first stone. And He let her go. He said, go and sin no more. That's the point of the Lenten season, is to check yourself. Really, look yourself in the mirror and think about the things that hold you back from your love of God, or your love for God, wanting to worship Him, wanting to do these things. What is the barrier that keeps you from getting closer to Him? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all been all about. But as you notice through history, people reject that idea, reject that notion. I would say in my 20s, that's what I did. Even up until my early 30s, that's what I did. I did what I wanted to do. I didn't listen to God. I wasn't even trying to talk to Him. I wasn't worried about it. There was always a part of me that was a little concerned, but not enough concern to actually bring me to my knees and say, Lord, You're the master and I'm the slave. I know that seems like strong words, but that's really what it is. Because, when you become a parent, you're the overlord of your children. You're the one that's guiding them through life. Have you ever heard that phrase, when your mom was upset with you? It's like, I sometimes it's meant in jest, and sometimes it's, with malice. But the phrase, I brought you into this world, I can take you out. That's kind of how God could operate that way. He really could. And, you see it around. Sometimes you see people that just, out of the blue, just gone. And we all wonder about that. Like, okay, well, Was that person right with the Lord? You know, did that person actually try? You know, we all hope they do, but sometimes, yeah, or not sometimes, but you don't know. And so that's kind of the same mantra. And, you know, obviously parents shouldn't be going out and taking out their kids because they didn't listen to them, you know, taking them behind the woodshed. That's horrible, obviously. You know, again, vengeance is the Lord's, justice is the Lord's. Neither of those things are ours to have. And so I would encourage you while we're here in Lent to take a minute. You know, maybe you already made some goals. Maybe you already set some things for yourself that you were going to do. But just remember, have the grace to understand that you're not going to do them perfectly. Even if, let's say, you go 40 days without a vice, you know, you did it. You didn't look at porn, you didn't drink, you didn't steal, you didn't lie. You're still, after the Lenten season, you're still going to have to keep that pace. You know, the Lenten season is not an end-all be-all. It's to help us run the race, the marathon. This is the training period. I remember I heard that from Father Mike Schmitz on one of his podcasts. He spoke about that, and it hit me. It made me think about, you know, because I would beat myself up when I would fall off the wagon, and especially last year during my conversion, I was so on fire, but I kept falling over and over and over again. The difference was I kept crawling back to God. Whereas before last year, I would fall and just give up and say whatever. And funny enough, the vices weren't as bad. It was the minute I tried to go to God, that's when all of it became 100 times harder. And it's only because when you look at yourself in the mirror and you see what you're doing, it generates a lot of emotion. And when you're so full of all this emotion, this raw, intense feelings, they debilitate you. And this is why God says, die to yourself. Don't worry about you. There's a reason. And it's because, like I've been told my whole life, I get in my own head. And what happens when I get in my own head? I overanalyze. I self-loathe. I self-flagellate myself. You know, just I beat myself into oblivion for mistakes I've made. And that could be dark forces pushing me down, trying to keep me away from God, or it can be me, or both. But there's always that thing where it's like, why can't I just stop? And honestly, it just comes down to that's our nature. Our nature is to go against God at this point because of original sin. And that's what makes it so discouraging at times when we start to see that we can't seem to get past something. And that's when we need to cry out to the Lord. That's my opinion, of course. You know, because when we're in our darkest hours, when we're at the most vulnerable, that's when the Lord speaks to us, and that's when he gives us direction, you know, to try and right the ship. Now, I'm not sitting here laying claim to know what God thinks, does, or anything. I really don't. I'm really fresh in all of this. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I want more people to experience what I've experienced. And that's because the Lord did change my life in January. And I'm not going to tell you that all of a sudden that was it, and I prayed, I saw some light, I thought, you know, this is it, and that's it. I raised up my hands, I won, let's go. It wasn't like that. And it's not like that now. The Lenten season is suffering. But it's the suffering that brings us closer to the Lord. It reminds us of our mortality. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I think a lot of people play fast and loose with their lives. And I think we're starting to see that now. You know, you see guys like me who were raised in a generation where it was about you. It's just about you. You do you. YOLO. You only live once. So just do whatever. Enjoy your life. It's all about you. It's all about your happiness. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of that attitude. You know, you've got more men and you got more disparity between men and women now. You have higher divorce rates. You have isolation. You have loneliness. You have a lot of backbiting, a lot of just selfish behavior. And there's going to be a rude awakening for some of these ladies who fall into that. You know, when you hit your mid-30s, it gets harder to have kids. And then there's going to come a point where your body says, no, we're done. The baby factory's closed. And for men, it's going to be the same thing. It's like a different set of circumstances, but along the ways it's going to be despair. Men are going to be like, yeah, I did it. I got the job. I've had this job. I've got an awesome retirement. I've got a beautiful home. I've got land. I've got cars. I've got money. And then, you know, I've got random women that don't care about me, but they let me do whatever they want, whatever I want to them because I've got money. And then on your deathbed, you realize you're alone. You're truly alone because you didn't ask God to come into your life. And the same with women. You know, got the job, got all this, had their fun, had their heyday, then all of a sudden they can't have kids. And then they just keep pushing forward, keep burying their heads into the job, and then they come home to an empty house or a house full of animals. And no matter how you look at it, those aren't babies. They're not your fur babies. They're not. They won't talk back to you. They won't give you the honest truth. They're just going to look at you and beg you to pet them and feed them and let them out or clean their litter box. And then after that, they're going to do whatever they want to do in your house. They're going to pee on the floor. They're going to make a mess of things. And they're not going to apologize, no matter how you look at it. And it's sad. That's very sad. And it's hard to put yourself in that position to think about it because it could be you. And that's just reality. And I don't mean that to be mean to anybody. But it's true. And I can say I've witnessed it. You know, I've seen it. And it wrecks you. Because there's no hope in that. And that's the key. That's the key. The only way we can really have true hope is if we die to ourselves. And that's where Jesus is trying to get to. Most of his parables always talk about giving up on yourself. Not like saying give up on life. Just put your ego down. And I notice that as I say this, a lot of this is coming right back at me. I mean, I'm looking at a camera saying these things, and I know that in my heart of hearts, I could definitely learn that right now. And so I hope by doing this that I can help spread that. I pray that I can spread this kind of hope, because that's really what we need. And I think that's all I got. Go figure. I never mute this. What's my problem? Whenever I go into mass, I'll turn it on airplane mode, but when we're here doing these recordings, I somehow manage to leave it on without even considering the matter. But for what it's worth, I hope that all of you find your way to God. And I don't care who you are. If you're a homosexual, if you're trans, woman, man, black, white, whatever race, whatever ethnicity, whatever even your religious background is. It doesn't matter to me, but it matters to him. I want all of us to find our way to him. And I know that my life has been rough, but it hasn't been as rough as some others. I haven't experienced some of the tragedies that other people have. But on the flip side, there are people that haven't had the experiences that I've had. But we can all come together on those experiences and understand that we can move past them. It says right here, "Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard." Your rear guard. The Lord's looking at you. He's got his hand on your back and saying, "I'm not going to let you fall. Keep going." When you're moving forward through life and you're moving through it with the darkness and you don't know what's going on, you're not sure what tomorrow brings, you're not sure what the next hour is going to bring, hell, you don't even know what the next 10 minutes. I could do this, hit stop, try to send it off, and drop dead right here. I could be like, that was a great daily Bible reading. Stand up, body cave. That's reality. That happens. There are people out there who have witnessed someone just stopping. And we try to ignore it. We do everything in our power to distract ourselves from that very instance. But we all know it's going to happen. We all know our final destination. And the question becomes, how do you want to get to that final destination? Do you want to do it like Frank Sinatra and say, I did it my way? Or do you want to say you did it the Lord's way and you trusted in him? And you can rest easy when you go up there, and wrapped in the full embrace of the Lord's love, which is something a lot of us can't even conceive. The closest thing we can come to that is a father's love, a mother's love. That's the closest we can come to that. Or a love for your spouse. When your spouse loves you in such a way that she sacrifices or he sacrifices for your sake, that's as close as you're going to get. And it's a fraction. A fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what the Lord can offer you. So, pray for your fasting, and I hope it's going well. I pray your Lenten season is going well, and if you haven't partaken, just think about it. You just started. If you come in midway and you give it a shot, guess what? That's a shot you weren't taking before. What's the harm? Because even if you do this, there's a possibility you'll come out a better person, even if you don't believe. But no matter how you turn it, God's going to get your attention. Whether you participate or not, there comes a time in all of our lives where God's like, if you won't listen, I will make sure you hear me. And then when you hear him, if you choose to turn away, then okay, I'll wait. And so I pray you guys have a blessed day. I hope to I'll be back here tomorrow. Well, I'm going to post another video, but I got to go to Mass soon. And because I'm horrible at schedules and times and dates, the Lord help me. I've never been one to be punctual. That's horrible. I know, that's horrible to say, but it's 100% true. I'm terrible at keeping track of time and doing all these things. I get so flustered. I actually just took Twitter off my phone. I took Google Chrome off my phone. I took YouTube off my phone. I get lost in that spiral just like anybody else. And so I hope it works. I'm going to try. I'm going to give it another shot. Again, we're in the Lenten season. Let's practice. Let's train. Let's get ourselves right for God. And let's try to make this year the best year for Him. God bless you.